Okay, uh, so presently we are in Hartford, Connecticut. This is 1683 East Hartford, the old Hartford Temple, and we are there in the association as well as Grace Carry Mohan Prabhu. So we are exploring if we can open a club in University of Connecticut. So February onwards, then we can start our pitching programs. By Krishna's mercy, we got a good family in the Hartford New Temple, and the Prabhu is a PhD student, and Mataji is pushing him to help us. So his wife. So he's chanting 2 rounds, but so yes. So today we are going to no, the University of Connecticut Stores campus to do some data analytics. So yeah, the main campus, that area is called as Stores. So we are going over to the Stores campus today. Yeah, after the study circle. So you all can offer prayers. If our club is registered, then February onwards we'll start our programs. So Vedic Yuddhan Forum, same club. This is UConn, University of Connecticut. Shri Parikshit Vacha Nivritti Marga Kathita Ado Bhagavata Yatha
Um,
Krama Yoga Palebdhena
Yogopanabdena
Brahmanayat Asam Sriti.
Brahmanayat Asamshitihi.
Maharaj Parikshit said, O my Lord, O Sukadev Goswami, you have already described in the second canto the path of liberation, which is the Nivritti Marg. By following that path, one is certainly elevated gradually to the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka, from which one is promoted to the spiritual world along with Lord Brahma. Thus, one's repetition of birth and death in the material world ceases. But since Maharaj Parikshit was a Vaishnava, when he heard the description at the end of the fifth canto, different conditions of life, he was very much concerned with how to liberate the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya and take them back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he reminded his spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami, about the Nivritti Marg, or the path of liberation, which he had described in the second canto. Maharaj Parikshit, who at the time of death was fortunate to have met Sukadeva Goswami, inquired from Sukadeva Goswami about the path of liberation at that crucial time. Sukadeva Goswami very much appreciated his question and congratulated him by saying, Varyaneshate prashna krituloka hitam nipa atmavat sammata pumsam shrotavyadishuya paraha. My dear king, your question is glorious because it is very beneficial for all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing, and it is approved by all the transcendentalists. Parikshit Maharaj was astonished that the living entities in the conditional stage do not accept the path of liberation, devotional service. instead of suffering in so many hellish conditions. So Parikshit Maharaj is astonished that living entities do not accept this path of liberation. Devotional service, they do not accept it, but continue suffering in hellish conditions. This is a symptom of a Vaishnava. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhe. A Vaishnava is a notion of mercy. Paradukha Dukhi is unhappy because of the unhappiness of others. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj, being compassionate towards the conditioned souls suffering in hellish life, suggested that Swami continue describing the path of liberation, which he had explained in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The word asamsriti is very important in this connection. Samsriti means continuing on the path of birth and death. Asmriti, on the contrary, refers to Nivritti Marga or the path of liberation by which one's birth and death cease and one gradually possesses Brahmaloka. Unless one is a pure devotee who doesn't care about going to the higher planetary systems, in which case one immediately returns back home back to Godhead. By executing devotional service. Tvaktva punarjanma naiti. Parikshit Maharaj therefore was very eager to hear from Sukadeva Goswami about the path of liberation for the conditioned soul. According to the opinion of the Acharyas, the word Krama Yogo Palabdhena indicates that by first performing Karma Yoga and then Jnana Yoga and finally coming to the platform of Bhakti Yoga, one can be liberated. Bhakti Yoga, however, is so powerful that it does not depend upon Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. Bhakti Yoga itself is so powerful that even an impious man with no assets in Karma Yoga or an illiterate with no assets in Jnana Yoga can undoubtedly be elevated to the spiritual world if he simply adheres to Bhakti Yoga. Mam ebhyasyasi evaisyasi asamshayaha. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 8.7 that by the process of Bhakti Yoga, one undoubtedly goes back to Godhead, back home to the spiritual world. Yogis, however, instead of going directly to the spiritual world, sometimes want to see other planetary systems, and therefore they ascend to the planetary system where Lord Brahma lives, as indicated by the word Brahmana. At the time of dissolution, Lord Brahma, along with the inhabitants of Brahmaloka, goes directly to the spiritual world. This is confirmed in the Vedas as follows: Brahmana sahate sarve संचरे पश्यन्ते पितात्मानः प्रविशन्ति परमपदम्. Because of their exalted position, those who are at the time of dissolution go directly back home, back to Godhead, along with Lord Brahma. Yeah. Mm. Srila Prabhupada reveals the oceanic, compassionate heart of Parikshit Maharaj here. What is the pain of a Vaishnava? Prabhupada explains Paradukha Dukhi, that because a Vaishnava feels for the welfare and upliftment, because he feels for the welfare of the humanity and the other living entities, and therefore, when he sees them suffering, then that gives a lot of pain to the heart. So the premise of the hellish planets is very tormenting. Now we saw when we read the description of the hellish planets that each of these hellish planets uh, um, each of these hellish planets so each of the principles mentioned in these hellish planets we saw that they are all so they are all Vaishnava etiquette principles. And what kind of an attitude, I mean, what kind of an attitude or what kind of an etiquette a devotee is supposed to follow? We heard about being duplicitous. We heard about being not telling lies, not exploiting others. There are hellish planets for each of them, each one of them. Obviously, not just grossly simple activities, but somebody who's a thief. What kind of destination they lead to? So, but the degree in which the but the only difference is that in the hellish planet, each of these principles is taught in a very hard manner. That's the point. In a very hard manner. No, each of these principles are taught in a very hard manner. Whereas, so therefore, actually, uh, Srila Prabhupada explains that now Parishad Maharaj is wondering that why the people are not accepting these principles. See, in the first place, these principles are the Vaishnav principles are very, very sweet, and they can make one's life very meaningful and pleasurable. Then why don't people accept it? Why don't people accept it? What is this? So that is a very painful situation. So therefore, you see, a devotee feels very restless seeing the suffering of others, and therefore a devotee tries to perform endeavors to alleviate the suffering of the people. And that is why the meditation of a sadhaka has to be that okay, how to make Krishna conscious practice acceptable for the people. How to present Krishna conscious in such a way that people can accept it. Because if they can accept it, there is no misery. Because of not accepting it, there is a problem. So we see in this material world, each one of us are diseased, and there is this terrible, terrible disease which is wreaking havoc in everybody's life. And the uh, and the Bhavoshadi is Krishna consciousness. But the problem is that people are not taking to it. Now, in case of a disease situation, the person is not taking to disease, the disease is going to aggravate and aggravate and aggravate. And that's all. And the more the disease, the symptoms of the disease aggravate, the more there is misery in one's life. The more the symptoms of the disease are aggravating. So, what is the solution? The solution is only going to start when the person takes the medicine. Interestingly, in this material world, everybody is diseased, but nobody believes that they are diseased. And somebody who's telling that, Arey Baba, you are diseased. Or people think this fellow is crazy. because he's only seeing disease. No, he's only seeing disease, not like that. So therefore, it is a great task. Somehow or the other, make people take the medicine. That is Krishna consciousness. Somehow or the other, make people take the medicine. People are not directly interested. What to do? Huh? So I was seeing, people are not directly interested. What to do? But somehow or the other, make people take the medicine. Not somehow or the other, make people take the medicine. Make them. So I remember seeing, just like here in the Western world, if you put up a book table and just stand there with a smile, putting up a book table, not a single person is going to come on the table. Not a single person is going to come on the table. So it's like that. If you make announcements, not a single person is going to come on the table. So then, how to do book distribution in India? At least, if you put a book table, still some people will come and say, "Oh, you're selling Bhagavad Gita. Okay, give me one." Or some people hear the announcement and they can come. And to others also we say, okay, please take Bhagavad Gita, please take Bhagavad Gita, like that we distribute. Those strategies don't work here. If you tell people, please take Bhagavad Gita, they say, no, thanks, I'm good. And if you ask people, okay, are you interested in Gita, Eastern philosophy? He says, no, I'm good. So the default thought process is, I am good. That is the default thought process. So therefore, actually, the whole point is that devotee is, then that means that, okay, then such people, how to make them interested? So therefore, one has to talk friendly, make them comfortable. No. Yesterday, Perry Mohan was explaining. He was in the book marathon party. Radha Damodar, Prabhuji was a van leader. So one van used to have four brahmacharis, and for every four vans would report to a bus. The bus would be having a temple hall. So so 4 into 4 is 16, and the bus had four. That means 20 devotees. One team would be there. So one team. The bus would have the deities. The bus would have the kitchen, and the prasad would be there. And the devotees would be. So he was telling that many times we used to, we may have. Prabhuji was telling that we used to flatter the people. And he was telling that some devotees, their flattery would be so blunt. Oh, it would be so blunt, And but Prabhu said, still it worked. you know, flattery would be so blunt, but still it worked. So one time, he was he was uh, so Prabhu was explaining one time, okay, so he went to a lady, and he was telling the lady, that, he was flattering the lady that, okay, ma'am, you're very philosophical or something like that. Uh, and she immediately got it. And she said, oh, and she said, you are not sincere. You are not sincere. That is not sincere. That is not sincere. Immediately she cut. That is not sincere. He said this would occur rare, but then this lady can't. And then Prabhu became very humble. And Prabhu said, "Oh, I'm trying to be sincere." He became very humble, and he said, "I'm trying to be very sincere." So she felt compassion. She gave some donation like that. So the point is, but he was telling some devotees, their flattery would be so blunt and so eccentric. Like one devotee was telling, in the Radha Damodar. So he went to one. I mean, he used to speak very loud, and he would barge anywhere and start speaking. He was like that, and he went into one beauty parlor. You know, he went to one beauty parlor, and all the whatever beauty parlor the people were doing all the procedures or whatever, like that. He went to the beauty parlor, and immediately he started. So his voice was very loud, and he just went in the middle, and then he started saying, "Oh, so I've come to the place here. There are so many beauties all around." And he said, "Okay, so many beauties all around." No, and they all started looking at him. So he gave them books, and he got donation, and he came out. So it would be, and Prabhu was saying he would just speak anything, and he was, but it worked. Prabhu was telling it worked. No, it worked actually. So the point is that many times we may have to. So one may have to. What is the logic in making people comfortable or giving some flattery and then giving a book? The point is that if they are taking book by flattery, they may feel better, and in that way they are taking a book. Then then that is one step towards Krishna, and they have the book. And no, Prabhupada said by touching also there is purification. So therefore we see that somehow or the other, the point is a Vaishnava cannot keep himself uh, what do you call it, as blind to the suffering of others. That okay, I don't care. Let them go to hell. Let them go to hell. So that is a Vaishnava. So therefore, a Vaishnava always wants to try somehow or the other, some way or the other. If we can drive or drill the benefit of the people, actually, that is a Vaishnava. You know. So that is the point, and therefore the paradukha dukhi. Here, we see Parikshit Maharaj not able to tolerate. Therefore, he's again speaking about liberation. Okay, please talk about liberation. Please talk about liberation. How will people be liberated? How can we liberate people? That is the point. So yes, people are degraded, but that doesn't mean we confine ourselves, we lock us down into some, inside some four walls and just be concerned with our own bhajan. No, yes, we have to do our bhajan because that is what gives us the spiritual strength, and that strength only we can share with others. Otherwise, what will we share with others? So we should prepare ourselves, gather spiritual strength, and go out somehow or the other, some way or the other, to take Krishna consciousness to the people. So the symptom of Vaishnava is a Vaishnava will always be restless, seeing the sufferings of others. That is the point. And that is what Prabhupada is highlighting in the purport here. Let's try to read further now. Pravritti lakshanashchaiva त्रैगुण्य विषयो मुने
Jaganya Vishaya Mune,
यो सब अलीन प्रकृतेर
Ya
Yusuf
Asapati
Ali
Sapete,
Napakata
गुण सर्गा पुनः पुनः.
Vina
Guna
Sarga,
Sarga Pana Pana.
Oh, great says Sukadev Goswami, unless the living entity is freed from the infection of the material modes of nature, he receives different types of bodies in which to enjoy or suffer, and according to that body, he is understood to have various inclinations. By following these inclinations, he traverses the path called Pravritti Marga, by which he may be elevated to the heavenly planets, as you have already described in the third canto. Babat? As Lord Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita 9:25, Yanti deva vrata devan pitran yanti pitravrataha bhutanti bhutani yanti bhutecha yanti madhyajinopima. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to be ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. Because of the influence of the modes of nature, the living entities have various tendencies or proclivities, and therefore they are qualified to achieve various destinations. As long as one is materially attached, he wants to be elevated to the heavenly planets because of his attraction of the material world. The Supreme Personality of Godhead declares, however, those who worship me come to me. If one has no information about the Supreme Lord and his abode, one tries to be elevated only to a higher material position. And when one concludes that this material world there is nothing but repeated birth and death, he tries to return home back to Godhead. If one attains that destination, he need never return to this material world. Yat katva ananivartante tadhama paramam mama. He Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 19.151, Brahmanda Brahmitya ko na bhagyavana jeev, Guru Krishna prasad paya bhakti lata bija. According to their karma, all the living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down to the lower planetary systems. Out of millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with the bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. All the living entities are rotating throughout the universe, sometimes going sometimes up to the higher planetary systems and sometimes down to the lower planets. This is the main disease which is known as Pravritti Marga. When one becomes intelligent, he takes to Nivritti Marga, the path of liberation. And thus, instead of rotating within this material world, he returns home back to Godhead. This is necessary. Yes. So here Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes that the major hook or the main hook for the living entity in this material world is what the living entity feels that the living entity gets attracted. He feels that somewhere or the other in this material world there is happiness and pleasure. Somehow or the other in this material world I can get that happiness and pleasure. This is the hook. Hmm. Sansara lagilo bhalo. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is praying that yes, in the womb you were praying to Krishna that, oh Krishna, I made a mistake. Now I've been given this human body and it is so painful, oh Krishna. And please take me out. But as soon as the living entity is born, then what happens is the living entity forgets. He says that, okay, you promised that you will worship Krishna once you come out of the womb, but you forgot. Why? Because sansara lagila bhalo. Bhuliya rohile tumi. Sansara bhitare. So you forgot. Why? Because sansara lagilo bhalo. That the sansara So this hook of samsara makes a living entity to acquire different modes, and those modes, basically the modes decides the trajectory and the tendency and the proclivity, and because of it the living entity is tossing around in this material world. So because people are hooked and they keep trying out anything, Lord Krishna is, that is why Prabhupada is quoting Yanti Deva Vrata. So sometimes they're worshipping the demigod, they land up with the demigod. They're worshipping the Bhuta, they land up with the Bhuta. But Krishna is telling, if you worship me, you'll come back to me. The other day, Golden Bhakti Ashray Vaishnav Maharaj was telling that unless you develop attachment for the devotees of the Lord, the acharyas, the senior, the devotees of the Lord, the guru, the guru's representatives, unless you develop attachment for them, it is not possible to get out of this position of being attached and attracted to these various facets of material energy. Yes, the living entity is attracted to this metal energy. So, how is this attraction going to change, or how that attraction going to get dissolved? It is only possible when one develops attachment to the great devotees of the Lord. And that attachment comes from service. That attachment comes from service, from hearing, from serving, sir. And this attachment is the prime or the pivotal turning point in one's life from material to spiritual. That's the idea. Because by that one goes beyond the modes. See, Lord Krishna is explaining here that the living entity is engrossed or bewitched by the pravritti marga. So he wants to go on enjoying and then that to enter the heavenly planets and then after enjoying a lot, then maybe take a trajectory up and so on. But we will see Srila Prabhupada is describing that in all the trajectories of the pravritti marga, the doorway or archway to enter the nivritti marga is available. That is Krishna's special mercy. That the living entity stubbornly does not want to surrender to Krishna, and therefore in the lanes of the sense gratification which is available, so this living entity doesn't want to surrender to Krishna, and even in the lanes of sense gratification which are available, the Lord puts counters to nivritti, doorways to nivritti. Yeah, in one sense, we can say that okay, maybe by book distribution this happens, yes, because devotees, I mean, people may be in what not sense gratification, and devotees barge in their lives. And if they take a book and they read it, it is going to work. So there is intervention of the devotee. And that is why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, every town and village there will be a temple of the Lord. That's what no, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants. And that is how every town and village the holy names of the Lord will be taken. So what does the temple do? A temple again gives us an access. That is a doorway. That okay, come in and come in and come inside the realm of nivritti. So this is the point that Krishna keeps giving opportunities. So the perfection of our lives can be we can become agents and instruments in the Lord's hands in increasing the opportunity of people to come in touch with Krishna. That is what preaching is meant for, all about preaching. Let's read further. अधर्मलक्षणा नाना नारकश्चानुवर्णितः मन्वन्तराश्च व्याख्यात आद्या स्वयंभुवो यथा. You have also described at the end of the fifth canto the varieties of hellish life that result from impious activities. And you have described in the fourth canto the first Manvantara, which was presided over by Swayambhuva Manu, the son of Lord Brahma. Priyavratodhanapado
Utthanapada,
Vamshastacharitani cha
Ramsasta Charitani Cha,
Dvipavarsha Samudradiri
Vipa Parsha Samudradri,
Nadiudyana Vanaspatin
Adi Udyana Vanaspatim,
Dharamandala Samsthanam
Dharamandala Sansthanam,
Agalakshana Manataha
Bhagavakshanamanatam,
Jyotisham Vivaranam cha
Jyotisha Vidaranam Cha,
Yatedam Asrajad Vibhu.
Muthedam Asrachat Bhu.
Hmm. Yes, my dear Lord, you have described the dynasties and characteristics of King Priyavrat and King Uttanapa. The Supreme Personality of Godhead created this material world with various universes, planetary systems, planets, and stars, with varied lands and seas and oceans, mountains, rivers, gardens, and trees, all with different characteristics. These are divided among this planet Earth, the luminaries in the sky, and the lower planetary systems. We have clearly described these planets and the living entities who live on them. Puppet, here the words Yathedam Asrajat Vibhu clearly indicate that the Supreme, the great Almighty Personality of Godhead, created this entire material world with its different varieties of planets, stars, and so on. Atheists try to conceal the hand of God which is present in every creation, but they cannot explain how these creations could come into existence without a competent intelligence and an almighty power behind it. Simply to imagine or speculate is a waste of time. In Bhagavad Gita 10.8, the Lord says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo. I am the origin of everything. Matta sarvam pravartate. Whatever exists in the creation emanates from me. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. When one fully understands that I create everything by my omnipotence, one becomes firmly situated in devotional service and fully surrenders at my lotus feet. See, unfortunately, the unintelligent cannot immediately understand Krishna's supremacy. Nonetheless, if they associate with devotees and read authorized books, they may gradually come to the proper understanding, though this may take many, many births, as Krishna says in 719. Bahunam janmanam nanti. ज्ञानवान् मां प्रपद्यते वासुदेव सर्वमिति समहात्मं सुदुर्लभम्. After many, many births, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that. Be such a great soul is very rare. Vasudev, Krishna, is the creator of everything. And his energy is displayed in various ways, as explained in Bhagavad Gita 7.4 and 5. A combination of material energy, Bhumi, Apo, Nalo, Vayu, and the spiritual energy, that is the living energy, exists in every creation. Therefore, the same principle, the combination of the Supreme Spirit and the material elements, is the cause of the cosmic manifestation. Mm. The combination of the material elements and the Supreme Spirit is the cause of the cosmic manifestation. So Srila Prabhupada very importantly quotes this verse 10.8 Aham sarvasya prabhavu matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddhava samanvita. See, Prabhupada is explaining that simply by following the process, the person is purified. As we could. So we were doing text 6. Okay, we just did 4, 5. Now let's go to text 6 now. Adunena Mahabhaga
Nena Mahabhaga
Yathaiva Narakannadaha
Kaivanaraha
Nanograyatanam Neyat
Nan Ugra Yanatanande
Tanme Vyakhatum
Tan Vyakhyatama Si
Oh, greatly fortunate Napul and Sukadev Goswami. Now kindly tell me how human beings may be saved from having to enter the hellish conditions in which they suffer terrible pains. But in the 26th chapter of the 5th canto, Sukadev Goswami has explained that the people who commit sinful acts are forced to enter hell planets and suffer. Hmm. So Parikshit Maharaj, being a devotee, is concerned how this can be stopped. A Vaishnava is paradukha dukhi. In other words, he has no personal trouble, but he is very unhappy to see others in trouble. Prahlad Maharaj asked, said, "My Lord, I have no personal problems, but I have learned, because I have learned how to glorify your transcendental qualities and thus enter a trance of ecstasy. I do have a problem, however, for I am simply thinking of these rascals and fools who are busy with Maya Shakti, temporary happiness, without knowledge of devotional service unto you. This is the problem faced by a Vaishnava, because a Vaishnava fully takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He personally has no problems. But because he's compassionate towards the fallen conditioned souls, he's always thinking of plans to save them from hellish life in this body and the next. Parishit Maharaj therefore anxiously wanted to know from Sukadeva Goswami how humanity can be saved from gliding down to hell. Sukadeva Goswami had already explained how people enter hellish life, and he could also explain how they could be saved from it. So intelligent men must take advantage of these instructions. So intelligent men must take advantage of these instructions. Unfortunately, however, the entire world is lacking Krishna consciousness, and therefore people are suffering from this grossest ignorance and do not even believe in a life after this life. To convince them of their next life is very difficult, because they become almost mad in their pursuit of material enjoyment. Nevertheless, our duty of all the sane men is to save them. Parikshit is the representative of one who can save them. Yes. Yeah, how the human beings can be safe to enter hellish conditions in which they suffer terrible pains. Yes, the Prabhupada is giving a beautiful puppet here. Mhm. Yeah. So see, it's the Prabhupada is quoting Dhruv Maharaj here. Sorry. Yeah. So just like materialistic people come up with newer and newer ways to go deeper and deeper into illusion, similarly we have to keep coming up with a constant newer and newer way to reach out to the people. So yes, so see here Prahlad Maharaj is saying, I have learned the art of how to glorify the transcendental qualities of Krishna. So I do not have a problem, however, for I am simply thinking of these rascals and fools. Yeah. So here is saying because the Vaishnava fully takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he personally has no problems because he is compassionate towards all the fallen conditions. So he is rather is thinking of all plans to reclaim them back, to save them from their hellish life in this body and the next. Sukadeva Goswami, however, humanity being, however, already explained how people enter the hellish life. And he could also explain how they could be saved from it. The intelligent man must take advantage of these instructions. Yeah. Unfortunately, however, the entire world is lacking Krishna consciousness. Therefore, people are suffering from the grossest ignorance and do not even believe in a life after this life. To convince them of their next position is very difficult. Yeah. So you see, to convince them of their next life is very difficult. Yeah, people are suffering from because of lack of Krishna consciousness. People are suffering from the grossest ignorance. So to convince them of the next life very difficult because they are mad. But our duty is to save all sane men. And therefore Maharaj Parikshit is a representative of one who can save. Yes. Maya Sukhaya Bharam Udvahato Vimudaha. This is what Prahlad Maharaj says. Hmm. How can this human beings be saved from having to enter the hell? Hmm. So living in it is mad and is madly caught, and therefore as a devotee one has to take time. So we see Parikshit Maharaj is showing this ideal mentality. Okay, how can people take to Krishna consciousness? How can people accept Krishna consciousness? So the whole point is this madness of material infatuation has to be removed in people's lives. Mhm. Therefore, our Krishna conscious presentation should be with the great uh, yeah, our Krishna conscious presentation should be with great humility and respect for every living entity. Let's read further. Sri Sukha Uvacha न चेद् इवै इहैवापचितं यथा अम्हसः
न चेद्विभैवचिता यथा भसाम्
कृतस्य कुर्यान्मन उक्तपानिभिः
तस्य कुर्यान्न उक्तपाणिभिः
ध्रुवं स वै प्रेत्य नरकानुपैति
ध्रुवं सवै प्रयतनरकानुपैति
ये कीर्तिता मे भगवस्तिग्मयातनः
ये कीर्ता मे भवतः सिग्मयातनः
तिग्मयातनः yeah tigma terrible. Sukadeva Goswami replied, my dear king, if before one's next death whatever impious activities one has performed in this life with his mind, body, and words are not counteracted through proper atonement, according to the description of Manu Samhita and other Dharma Shastras, one will certainly enter the hellish planets after death and undergo terrible suffering. We should remember that this terrible suffering of the hellish planets is like a mother's slap on a child, so that the child can take heed and make up. What if he doesn't make up? Then he goes on the path of degradation, and on this path of degradation, the suffering which one will experience will be enormous. In front of that suffering, the suffering of the hellish planets is just a slap. Because in the fifth canto of Bhagavatam, we hear or we read actually, uh, uh, that okay, as a punishment which is given to these candidates, they are dragged in the through the sand and then taken to the place where their next body they would get. And there itself the point. So there, Bhagavatam mentions one thing, that this whole ordeal of this living entity being dragged in a burning sand and so on, and then taken to the destination so that his judgment can be done. Uh, so, uh, so there, Bhagavatam explains that all this happens in a moment's time, very fast. All this happens in a moment's time, and then the further decision for the living entity's journey is taken by Yamaraj. So the point is not that mm, so this hellish suffering basically is in that sense to speak is going to be much less in comparison to what the living entity can do if one remains yeah, if one remains loitering around this material world. Therefore, we should not loiter and litter in this material world. Chasing behind the glitter, don't loiter and litter. Hmm. So, therefore, one has to take to one's spiritual life in an intense gear. Let's read further. तस्मात् पुरैवासु इह पापनिष्कृतौ यतेत मृत्योरविपद्यतात्मना
यतेतमेत्यर्विपद्यतात्मना
दोषस्य दृष्ट्वा गुरुलाघवं यथा
देशस्वदेशविभागभं यथा
विषचिकित्सेतरुजां निदानवी
चिकित्सेतरुचां निदानपीठसिद्धानि
Therefore, before one's next death comes, as long as one's body is strong enough, one should quickly adopt the process of atonement according to Shastra. Otherwise, one's time will be lost and the reactions of his sins will increase. As an expert physician diagnoses and treats a disease according to the gravity, one should undergo atonement according to the severity of one's sins. Yeah, Papat. The Dharma Shastras, like the Manu Samhita, prescribe that a man who has committed murder should be hanged and his own life sacrificed in atonement. Previously, this system was followed all over the world. But since people are becoming atheists, they are stopping capital punishment. This is not wise. Here it is said that the physician who knows how to diagnose a disease prescribes the medicine accordingly. If the disease is very serious, the medicine must be strong. The weight of a murderer's sin is very great, and therefore, according to Manu Samhita, a murderer must be killed. By killing the murderer, the government shows mercy to him because the murderer is not killed in this life, he'll be killed and forced to suffer many times in future lives. Since people do not know about the next life and the intricate workings of nature, they manufacture their own laws. But they should properly consult the established injunctions of the Shastras and act accordingly. In India, even today, the Hindu community often takes advice from great scholars regarding how to counteract sinful activities. In Christianity, also, there is a process of confession and atonement. Therefore, atonement is required, and atonement must be undergone according to the gravity of one's sinful activities. Yes. So basically, we can see that the whole, if we try to see the whole destiny chart is quite mathematical. Therefore, here the point of atonement is coming because it's mathematical. Because if there is a downward force, it has to be replaced by an equivalent time of, I mean, equivalent amount of upward force. Then it will be neutral gear. So, uh, so therefore, this question of atonement is what is that? Okay, balance. Now we don't run after this prayashitta and atonements, but I mean the ritualistic atonements or the ritualistic. We don't chase after them, but the greatest atonement which we will see in this section is the chanting of the holy names. So basically, now what this verse means for us is that okay, the whatever amount of sinful activities have been done in the past, equal amount of time we should perform spiritual activities. Then it will be nullified. At least equal amount of time. That is the idea behind atonement. So therefore, whenever a devotee, see, sometimes a practicing devotee may succumb to previous vices and perform some sinful activities. So when this happens, what does the devotee do? A devotee doesn't say, "Oh, it's okay. What can be done? I am a fallen living entity, and this is Kali Yuga going on." No, and the other Vaishnavas are also not setting a very top class example either. So it's okay. It is okay. So this is the point here. But sometimes one may take it lightly. I know resurgence of some vices or inflationary spikes of vices should be counteracted or with uh, an equivalent amount of time uh, of indulgence in devotional service. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. So that is the point. Therefore, when it comes to ourselves, one should become, see, when it comes to other Vaishnavas, we are very tolerant. But when it comes to ourselves, no, then one should be very observant. And any lapse here and there, immediately one should perform some extra spiritual activity to counteract it. This is the whole lesson which we can derive from atonement. That yes, one needs to counteract. I mean, that is the point, atonement. Okay, so here his question is saying, the question Ravi Bruce saying is, many times punishment seems disproportionate. Oh, like killing for plundering wealth. Oh, in the hellish planets?
We hear in Bhagavad Gita that one can kill a person if he splendor the wealth. So Prabhupada was telling about Manu Samhita.
Yeah. Yes. No, that basically what I have heard is that it is for aggressor. That one who plunders one's own hard-earned wealth. That also is. I mean, such a person is also called as an aggressor. So just to defend oneself, one can. I mean, it is not that okay. We are. I mean, one should not hunt for reasons to kill others. That okay, now this reason is satisfied, so let me kill. The whole focus of that verse is that okay, one has a right to defend oneself, and the process of defending oneself, the person gets killed, then the person will not have any face any sin, because that is the whole idea. That okay, no problem, one should defend, but sometimes in defense the other person may get harmed. So then the chances saying no problem, that is okay, taken into account. So otherwise, it's not. I mean, killing should not be a pivotal focus, anyways. I mean, so we should not be cutting excuses to kill others. Very dangerous, like that. So devotee is. Uh, See, Prahlad Maharaj didn't resort to any of these. No doubt Hiranyakashipu was aggressor, but he had that compassion. Therefore, Prabhupada says that okay, there are certain. That is why there are higher dharma and lower dharma. So Prahlad Maharaj did not even retaliate. Here it's saying, okay, it's okay to retaliate, but Prahlad Maharaj didn't do that. Because you're simply taking shelter of devotional service. So the point is that this taking shelter of the process of devotional service is most important. That's the idea. Okay, let's read further. So atonement requires alertness. That okay, for every negative activity, we add in a positive activity of devotional service. You can see. So in that way, clear or balance the debit credit pointers. Shirajuvacha दृष्टा दृष्टा श्रुताभ्यां यत् पापम् जनानपि आत्मनो हितम् करोति भूयो विवशः प्रायश्चित्तम् अथो कथम् Maharaj Parikshit said, one may know that sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuked by the people in general, and because he hears from scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish conditions in the next life for committing sinful acts. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Yeah. So, nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing the acts of atonement. So, what is the value of atonement? In some religious sects, a sinful man goes to a priest to confess his sinful acts and pay a fine, and then again commits the same sins and returns to confess them again. This is the practice of a professional sinner. Parikshit Maharaj's observations indicate that even 5,000 years ago, it was the practice of criminals to atone for their crimes, but then commit the same crimes again, as if forced to do so. Therefore, owing to his practical experience, Parikshit Maharaj saw that the process of repeatedly sinning and atoning is pointless. Regardless of how many times he is punished, one who is attached to sense enjoyment will commit sinful acts again and again unless he is trained to refrain from the enjoyment of the senses. In the word vivashaha is used here in indicating the one who does not want to commit sinful acts will be forced to do so by habit. Yeah. So one who does not vivash means helpless. And we are forced, one who does not want to commit sins, but they are forced to commit the sins by vivash. So Parikshit Maharaj therefore considered the process of atonement to have little value for saving one from sinful acts. In the following verse, he further explains his rejection of this process. Hmm. Yeah, in spite of this knowledge, one is forced to come back again and again. Yeah, Vivash. Hmm. Yeah. So we see that we were just making the point that at any destination point, while traversing through this journey of the material consciousness, at various junctures one may find the archway to make one's consciousness spiritual. Yeah. So Prabhupada says here that's the process of sinning and atoning is pointless. Yeah. So it does not, regardless of how many times one is punished, one is attached to sense enjoyment. Who is attached will commit sinful activities again and again. So we have to restrain and refrain from enjoying the senses. Yes. There's different devotees have different perceptions. The activity to some devotee appears like it is alright, whereas some others say it's a great mistake. How can we be sure what is a mistake and what is not? And how can we quantify the mistakes or offenses? Like the point came that equal amount of spiritual activity is mistake. Yeah. Yeah. So the point is in material consciousness, one quantifies a mistake to be very small. They say it's okay, no problem. It's okay. Like sometimes, people say that okay, even if they have illicit affair, they say it's okay. I did it by mistake. Now I'll not repeat it. It's okay. So they devalue it very badly. But whereas the advanced devotees, what they do, they have no problem. Actually, have no problem. That problem is of the size of nanoscale, but they magnify it as if it is Mount Everest. So they magnify it as a Mount Everest. So now, what granularity we should follow? Uh, so whatever we can sustainably follow, that is the point. Sometimes one says, no, let me follow a pure devotee matrix. But pure devotee matrix is also very pure. So the matrix is very lofty. So it is like, so therefore we may not be able to sustainably follow. At least we should do something and slowly go on increasing. That is the whole point. The whole point be we should not be careless. Means, oh no no, it's okay. No, it's not okay. We have we are not okay. No, our so we have to work on it. That's the whole point. No? So not to take it casually, but to take it seriously. But how serious? There is no limit because sky is the limit of how serious in our Acharya is demonstrating. But we may not be able to sustainably do it. So at least we should do something and slowly we can try to increase. That is the point. Okay, let's stop here for today then.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah. So how is being hanged in one's what is this? Being hanged in this very lifetime saves from being killed multiple lifetimes. Yeah, yeah. It so the point is that there is a metric which says that one should uh, yeah, and the later the impact to the more. Yes, because whenever a person commits sin, Along with the sin, two things happen. One is sinful reaction one gets. The second is one gets the proclivity to commit sin, increased proclivity to commit sin as a free top up one gets. So when we commit sin, we get a free top up. So therefore, now if the punishment is not given, then the top up will be there with the person, and that top up will make one commit more sins. So therefore, one has to get rid not just of the sinful reaction, but the sinful proclivity top up which has come. So for both of that, the so the punishment is necessary. The if one undergo the punishment, the top up will go away. I mean, the punishment comes. There is some amount of punishment will teach a lesson. By that lesson, one can actually go beyond the top of. But other the punishment has not come, the person is continuing, and with increased sinful proclivity has come. It is a very dangerous scene. Therefore, the reaction has to be there. That is why when we realize we are sinners, that okay, we have also been very sinful, fallen people. So what we should do? We have to immediately take to Krishna consciousness and seriously take to Krishna. Not that okay, it's okay, you know. Anyways, I will slowly pick it up. No, pick it up fast. Because the more slow we are, the more delu we are, the more our sinful proclivity will make us commit sin. That is the point. Therefore, one should not be delu. No, that's the point. Okay, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Hari Bol.